Hey everyone, before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is there. That way, YouTube will keep showing you more stories just like this one. Alright, let's begin. They tell you to expect strange things on the road. You spend enough nights staring into empty highways and forgotten towns, and eventually, something stares back. This incident happened in late October of 2022. I was hauling a load of automotive parts from Houston up to Chicago. It was a route I'd done a few times before, nothing special. Long, quiet stretches through the Midwest. The only thing different that night was me deciding to skip a night stop and power through to make up for a delay at the dock. It was about 3:30 in the morning when I pulled into a small roadside pull-off somewhere in southern Missouri. Just a dirt patch off the 2-lane highway, nothing more. I needed to piss and stretch my legs, and there wasn't another vehicle in sight. The trees were thick on either side, tall and pressing in, like the road had carved through something that didn't want to be carved. I left the truck idling, took care of my business, and got back in. As I was shutting the door, I heard a soft crunching sound behind me, like gravel shifting underfoot. I whipped around. Nothing. Just the woods, and my trailer bathed in the faint red glow of the taillights. I told myself it was an animal and got rolling again. I didn't even make it a mile before I started to feel off. Not tired, just unsettled. It felt like I wasn't alone in the cab anymore. You know how you can sense someone watching you? That's how it felt, except I couldn't see anyone. I kept checking my mirrors. Nothing. But every few minutes I'd hear a faint creak or thump from behind the sleeper curtain. Too loud to be the truck settling, too deliberate. I reached for the metal flashlight I keep on the dashboard and pulled the rig over. My hand was shaking. I don't scare easily, but something about this wasn't right. I yanked the curtain open and shined the light into the sleeper. Empty. I checked every corner, lifted the mattress, and even opened the side storage compartments. Nothing. I was alone. I told myself it was nerves, stress, and a lack of sleep. I got back on the road. About 20 minutes later, something tapped the back of my headrest. I swerved so hard the rig nearly went into the ditch. I jumped out, flashlight in hand, and circled the truck twice. No signs of anyone, not even footprints in the dirt. But when I climbed back in, the cab stank, like mildew and rot, like something had been living in a wet basement for a year. I gagged. I threw the windows down and drove with the cold air freezing my face. I just wanted daylight. I made it to a way station just south of St. Louis as the sun was rising. The smell had faded. I was rattled, but trying to convince myself I'd hallucinated the whole thing. Sleep deprivation can do wild things to a mind. I pulled around to the back lot and parked. Before I climbed into the sleeper to rest, I figured I'd check the trailer. Maybe something spilled. Maybe a dead animal got in somehow. I walked to the back and rolled the door up. Every box was right where it was supposed to be. But on the floor, scratched into the wood, were words. "Let me ride." They were jagged, uneven, like someone had used a nail or a piece of broken glass. My stomach dropped. I slammed the trailer shut and backed away. I didn't sleep. I got back behind the wheel and drove straight through to Chicago. By the time I reached the drop point, I was practically delirious. The smell was back, stronger. When I opened the trailer for unloading, it hit the workers like a wall. One guy actually threw up. We pulled everything out. No animals, no leaks, no rot. But the smell lingered. And in the far corner of the trailer, we found something else scratched into the wall. "Thank you." That was it. No one ever figured out what caused the smell. I told the yard supervisor what happened. He laughed it off, said I must have been high or dreaming. That night, I booked a motel. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in the cab. I thought a warm shower and a real bed would help. It didn't. Around 2 a.m., I woke up in a cold sweat. My nose burned. The smell was back. Not just in the air. It felt like it was coming from me. My clothes, my skin, my hair. I ran to the bathroom and scrubbed myself raw, but it wouldn't go away. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I tossed everything I had worn into a dumpster behind the motel. The duffel bag, the clothes, even the boots. I bought all new gear from a department store on the edge of town. Back at the yard, I asked one of the mechanics to check the trailer for mold or any kind of rot. He poked around for 10 minutes and came back shaking his head. Said the thing was spotless, cleaner than most. I haven't hauled that route again. I don't drive at night anymore either. And I never, ever open my sleeper curtain without announcing myself first. Because whatever it was that hitched a ride that night, it never really felt like it left. My name is Brian Teller. I've been a long-haul trucker for over 12 years now. I've seen blizzards in Nebraska, floods in Louisiana, and even a tornado once in Kansas that I barely outran. But nothing, and I mean nothing, has shaken me the way that one night outside El Paso did. It was late August, the kind of late summer that makes the asphalt steam and the sky shimmer. I was hauling a load of livestock feed from San Antonio to Phoenix, an overnight trip I had done more times than I could count. The plan was to power through the night, grab a few hours of sleep at a stop near Tucson, then make the drop. Simple and routine. That's how horror always starts, right? The stretch of Interstate 10 between Fort Hancock and El Paso is long, dark, and quiet, mostly desert and craggy terrain. The towns are spread thin, and you could drive for an hour without seeing another set of headlights. But that night was particularly dead. No traffic, no radio signal, just the hum of my engine and the occasional crackle of the CB. Around 2:30 a.m., somewhere near Sierra Blanca, I started getting that familiar, dangerous tug of fatigue. I popped the lid off an energy drink, cranked the AC, and rolled down the window to let in some of that dry desert wind. Still, my eyelids felt like they had bricks attached. Then I remembered the caffeine gum I had stashed in the glove box. I reached over, fumbled around, and nearly dropped the wheel when my headlights illuminated something in the road. Clothing, a pile of it, scattered randomly across the lane. A flannel shirt, a pair of jeans, something that looked like a child's hoodie. I swerved just enough to avoid running it over, heart thumping in my chest. My brain scrambled for rational explanations. Maybe someone's suitcase blew open? A lost hiker's gear? None of it made sense, but I pressed on. 5 minutes later, more clothes. This time a sneaker on its side, a bra tangled in a belt. I slowed, chewing the gum like it owed me money. Something was wrong. You don't see random piles of clothing twice out here. Not like this. Then I saw the car. A white sedan, empty. Parked half off the road with the driver's door hanging open. Headlights off. No sign of a crash. I pulled over about 30 yards ahead and killed my engine. My instincts screamed at me not to get out. But if someone was hurt, I couldn't just leave them. That's not who I am. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. The air was still. The kind of silence that presses into your ears. "Hello," I called. "Anyone there? You okay?" No answer. I approached the car cautiously, the gravel crunching under my boots. The interior was dark, but I could see the driver's seat was empty. So was the back. But there was something smeared across the inside of the driver's side window. Handprints, greasy, overlapping smudges. Some looked small, too small. I backed up, heart now hammering. That's when I heard the sound. A child, crying. It came from the desert. Off to my left, maybe 30 feet away. A soft whimper, muffled but distinct, like a little girl trying to be brave. "Hello," I said again, turning the flashlight toward the sound. "Are you hurt?" More crying. I took a few steps toward the scrub brush. The beam of my flashlight danced over mesquite branches, cacti, and rocks. Then, movement. A shadow darted behind a cluster of bushes. The crying stopped. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. And then I saw it. A speaker. A small black Bluetooth speaker was lying in the dirt, partially buried under some leaves. That's what had been playing the crying. I turned to run back to my truck. As I spun around, I saw them. 3 figures, men, all in dark clothing, faces covered with ski masks. They were walking toward me, slow and casual, like they had all the time in the world. One of them held a pipe. Another raised a flashlight and aimed it right at my face. Blinded, I bolted. I didn't scream. I didn't look back. I ran harder than I've ever run in my life, straight toward the truck. My boots slipped on gravel. My breath came in hot, ragged gasps. I could hear them behind me. Shouts, footsteps, the clatter of metal. Somewhere in the panic, I dropped my flashlight. But my truck was only a few feet away. I yanked open the door, threw myself in, and slammed it shut just as something slammed into the side of the cab. The window cracked, but didn't shatter. I turned the key. The engine groaned. Didn't start. They were pounding on the doors now. The one with the pipe was swinging it hard, trying to break through the passenger window. I turned the key again. The engine roared to life. I floored it. The truck lurched forward, tires squealing as I pulled back onto the highway. In the mirror, I saw one of the men chasing for a few steps before stumbling to the ground. I didn't stop. I didn't breathe. Not until I saw the lights of El Paso on the horizon. I pulled into a brightly lit rest stop and sat in the cab for nearly an hour, trying to stop shaking. When I finally went inside, I reported what happened to the local authorities. A sheriff came out, took my statement, and promised they'd check the area. I gave him the coordinates I'd marked, described the clothes, the car, the speaker. He nodded, said it wasn't the first time. That stretch of road, he said, had seen a few strange incidents lately. Abandoned cars, campfires deep in the desert. People are going missing. They didn't have suspects, just theories. Smugglers, traffickers, killers. The only thing they all had in common was that they preyed on drivers traveling alone through long, dark roads where no one could hear you scream. I asked if they had found the white sedan. They did. Empty. Keys still in the ignition. No blood, no prints. Just the same greasy handprints on the window. That was 4 months ago. I haven't driven that route since. Not because I'm scared. Well, maybe a little. But because I know what I saw. And I know that someone, or something, out there wanted me dead. And the worst part? I don't think I was the first one they tried to lure with that fake crying. And I'm damn sure I won't be the last. I'd been hauling steel beams from Boise down to a construction site just outside of Albuquerque. Long-distance runs like that are exhausting, but they pay well, especially when you agree to haul overnight without stopping. I'd done this route once before, and I remembered how barren that stretch between eastern Utah and northern New Mexico felt in the middle of the night. It was about 2 a.m., and I was somewhere near Jackson Ridge, a place most people have never even heard of unless they're locals or truckers. My GPS had been glitching in and out due to poor service, and I was relying more on my memory and the scattered road signs than anything else. That stretch of highway is long and lonely, not a gas station or lit building for miles. The only light was from my own headlights and the stars above. I'd been going for hours without a break, so I finally decided to pull off at a rest area. It wasn't even really a full stop, just a wide patch of gravel shoulder with an old payphone booth and a single trash bin. I climbed down from the cab to stretch my legs and take a leak behind the truck. That's when I heard it. This strange, high-pitched screech echoing from farther down the highway. I turned toward the sound, squinting into the dark. A pair of headlights came speeding over the horizon. They weren't just moving fast. They were swerving, weaving between imaginary lanes. I stepped behind the trailer and watched as the car, a black sedan, maybe an old Honda or Toyota, screeched to a halt about 50 feet behind my truck. The driver's side door swung open and someone stumbled out. He was limping slightly, but it was the way he was holding something in his hand that got my attention. Even in the dim light, I recognized the silhouette of a pistol. I didn't wait around. I climbed back into the cab, locked the doors, and started the engine. As I shifted into gear, I heard the first gunshot. The bullet pinged off the side of the trailer. I ducked instinctively, slamming the gas pedal. The semi jerked forward, gravel spraying behind me as I pulled back onto the highway. I looked into the side mirror. The man had returned to his car and was chasing me. Full speed. His headlights bounced violently as he accelerated. He started gaining on me faster than I was comfortable with. My mind raced. Was this a carjacker? A lunatic? Someone high out of his mind? I didn't know, and I didn't care to find out. I tried calling 911, but my phone wouldn't get a signal. That highway was notorious for dead zones. He got close enough to my trailer that I could feel the pressure shift. That's when he started honking and flashing his brights in rapid bursts. It wasn't some panic signal. It was pure aggression. I swerved slightly to try and shake him, but that's hard to do in a semi, especially one that's fully loaded. He pulled up alongside me on the left, horn blaring. I glanced over, just for a second, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He looked blank, expressionless. That was somehow more terrifying than rage. Then he raised the gun again. I swerved into him, clipped the edge of his bumper with the side of my rig. It sent him veering into the other lane, almost off the road. I saw sparks fly as his car skidded against the guardrail, but somehow he recovered and came right back. That's when I saw the sign. State Trooper Station. 3 miles. 3 miles felt like 100 at that point. I floored it, ignoring the wear and tear on the engine. My trailer clunked and groaned behind me, but I wasn't stopping. The guy got close again, this time trying to ram me from behind. Another shot rang out. This one cracked my passenger side mirror. Glass exploded across the cabin. I screamed, not out of pain, but from pure adrenaline and disbelief. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly that my knuckles went numb. I was hyper-aware of everything. The sound of the tires, the roar of the engine, the wind slicing through the broken mirror. The road curved sharply, and I nearly tipped the trailer, taking it too fast. Somehow, I stayed upright. Up ahead, a faint red and blue glow flickered in the distance. I'd never been so relieved to see police lights in my life. I laid on the horn, long and loud, as I blew past the entrance sign to the trooper station. The patrol car was parked out front. An officer stood outside, writing something down on a clipboard. He looked up, startled, just as I slammed on the air brakes and skidded to a stop in front of the building. Behind me, the black sedan slowed. For a second, I thought he might try to bluff his way through. But as soon as he saw the trooper walking toward us, he did a U-turn right there on the highway and gunned it back the way he came. I jumped down from the cab, panting, sweating, shaking like hell. I told the officer everything about the car, the shots, the chase. I pointed at the shattered mirror, the dent in the trailer. The officer got on his radio and called for backup. I stood there, hands still trembling, as he questioned me. Eventually, 3 more cruisers showed up and headed down the highway in pursuit. I waited for hours at that station. They wanted a full statement, and they took photos of the damage. At one point, another officer told me they found tire tracks peeling off into the desert about 10 miles back, but they didn't locate the vehicle or the suspect. Not that night, anyway. A few weeks later, I got a call from the state patrol. They'd recovered a black Honda Accord, abandoned in a dry wash near the Arizona border. No plates, no prints. Inside the trunk, they found blood, ropes, and what looked like homemade restraints. But no person, no ID, nothing. They never caught him. Every once in a while, I think about what would have happened if I hadn't seen those trooper lights, or if he'd rammed me off the road. I don't drive night shifts anymore unless I absolutely have to. There's something about the desert at night that makes people think they can disappear. Maybe that guy already had. Maybe I just interrupted him doing something he didn't want anyone to see. Either way, I keep a flare gun under my seat now. And my headlights? They've been fixed ever since.